Welcome to this week's special episode of the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. In 2020, as part of the Dance Studio All-Star Series, your host Clint Salter has been interviewing top industry-leading dance studio owners who are continuing to innovate, increase income, and lead their team, despite the world around them slowing down. In the coming weeks, you'll discover exactly how top-performing studio owners, the cream of the dance studio owner crop really, are tackling the challenges of 2020, including exciting and innovative ways to create online curriculum and virtual revenue, out-of-the-box social media and PR campaigns that are actually working right now, real-world examples of online customer experiences that wow studio families, leadership techniques and overcoming common virtual studio obstacles, and so much more. We hope you enjoy this special series of interviews, and make sure to join our free Facebook community, the Dance Studio Owners Hub, for more resources and support in growing your dance studio.
Hey, Dance Studio Owners, it's Clint Salter. Welcome back. Excited for another one of our interviews with our incredible dance studio owners. I'm thrilled to bring you Shannon Westby from All About Dance in Chicago. Shannon has been with us in the Inner Circle for 3 years. She's one of our Inner Circle Elite members and also one of our coaches. You may have caught Shannon's session in the Studio Rescue Summit that we did, but we're back for some more and we're back to talk about some different things. So Shannon, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so Shannon, one of the things I love about you, and so does our members, is the way that you have kind of created your team. And you're in a little bit of a different situation because you operate your studio from a completely different state. And so I'd love for you to just start by giving us a little bit of a background around the studio and also your management, the way that you manage your team when you're in a completely different area.
Yeah. Well, our studio, we have 700 students, so about 450 recreational, and then we have a big pre-company starlet program, we call it, with 85 students, and then company for 113 kind of make up that. Each of those programs does have its own director. In fact, our company program has 2 directors now, a creative and executive, and our recreational program has 2 at the moment, but one of them is going to transition hopefully into our second studio. So the other person is sort of in training, if you will. And then we also have, I also have a co-owner, Jessica Goldman, who actually founded the studio in 2005. And then we have 2 adult program directors as well that are, we did a complete rebrand, which some of you might have seen. Jessica was offering free classes, Dance Forever. And that has just kind of gone into effect this year in September. And honestly was really starting to take off before all of this happened with COVID. So they're trying to, fair everything that's going on, but there's 2 directors there as well that manage that program. And then we do have a studio manager, Emily, who is more of facilities, HR, deals a lot with programming and teachers and just making sure that they're happy. And she really is kind of the face because she runs our dance store, and a lot of families knew her from her previous job. She was with Aviva. We kind of found her in a special time. And then our business manager, Stephanie, who does all of our accounting and back-end work and mind body registrations and all of our analysis and reports, and just keeping me up to date on kind of how everything's working and running at our studio. So it definitely has taken that team to make things work. When I left and moved to Colorado in 2017, we had been prepping for that for about 2 years, or I had been. Not everybody knew that that's what I was doing. But we had some of the directors that are now full directors were co-directors with me on programs, recreational and starlet, and had a kind of a year and a half of training on the back end because they were amazing teachers and had been assisting me in classes and meeting all the families and starting to do communication, but really didn't have any idea about planning a recital or auditions or all of the various newsletters and just everything that had to happen within a year's time. So really kind of 2 years, really spending time getting into that. And actually throughout those 2 years, we lost our studio manager. And so Jessica and I sat down and thought, okay, we want to go corporate. We're going to bring somebody in that's going to be more like me. And, she's going to manage more from a corporate perspective. And she came in and it was not a good fit. And we did a huge hiring through ZipRecruiter and, went the whole whole 9 yards and trying to we brought in 20 candidates and ended up with her, and it wasn't a good fit. Number one, she didn't realize honestly how much work it was going to take to run a dance studio. And two, just culturally, it didn't work out. So Emily, who's now our studio manager, was running the store at that time. And like I said, she was just constantly getting compliments by our staff and our parents. And the more I would watch her, she was totally all about dance and fit with our core values, and, really understood what it would take to keep that studio running, as if Jessica and I were, both there doing it ourselves. And so we've really kind of been lucky in hiring within and kind of moving people through the ranks. And we often talk about, building our bench to make sure that we always have strong employees in the classroom and choreographers, but also that just get our culture and that could step into roles, on the back end and communicate the way that we would being remote.
This is incredible. I already have a page of notes from you talking just then. So I want to dive into a couple of things. One of the big themes is, and you just mentioned it, is that you grow from within. You're always identifying talented dance teachers that could become directors, that could have, different roles inside of the company. How are you mentoring and coaching these people when you identify their talents? How are you kind of bringing them up through the ranks and, having them really run the business?
No, that's a really great question. I mean, I think a lot of it is honestly like being involved within the inner circle and DSOA. I've made a choice to kind of bring them along in that journey, just because there's so many great resources here, and ways that we do provide professional development as part of their benefits package, that they could have some sort of professional development once a year. And, almost half of them now have chosen to do things within Inner Circle, whether it be a retreat or something different. And a lot of them do the trainings with me, and it's been a huge resource for them. But I think also just, giving them time to be, giving them true autonomy, and then also letting them really live out the situations within the studio that happen, and taking time, away. So before actually being remote full time, taking days where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be at the studio today. I'm going to work from home. Or when I go on vacations, trying to really be more mindful myself about, I'm not going to answer emails, or, today is truly a family day, so please don't contact me for this, and letting them really live through those situations, whether it be, the alarm going off at midnight and we don't know someone's breaking into the studio, or, something smaller where a child, something happened that day in dance class and maybe they're in tears and having to contact the parents. But I think, I used to tell this to our teachers when they first started, because I started at such a young age teaching, that you really almost have to live through every scenario with a parent and child to know how you would react and be the leader in that situation. And so that's kind of what we live in and breathe by at AAD is just, stepping back and giving people the chance to shine and be leaders, and of course be there for them. But, give them the chance to do it, and then creating, okay, let's create that process around what does that look like, and how can you train the next person to do the same thing? Because you did these things right. And if there's things that went wrong, what could we have done better and put in place? Because, it's such a mass amount of things that have to happen in communication. And so just really making sure that we're all dialed in and on the same page and keeping track of everything we do.
This is great. I think you've got this great combination of systems and processes, as well as really great team members. And I think that's the magic, because a lot of people are like, it's all about systems and processes, and they are very, very important, but you also need the right people. Can you talk a little bit about those two things and how they've molded together over the years?
Yeah, I think, the systems and processes, I think it's a battle that I hear constantly in the group. And it was tricky for us. I think the directors who are teaching, who are on the younger end, more millennial age, I would say didn't see the value initially in kind of trying to put that together, because they were thriving. And Jessica and I have different leadership styles. So whether they were with myself or her, might have been getting mixed communication. So we really had to sit down and say, okay, let's align and, give them the direction they need, because no matter what program these people are directing it, it has to be everything has to come out the same way in the communication, the feel, the way that they teach, the love that they give, and all of that. And so we, really had done sort of that sort of training within meetings, and we do high expectations. We have a director handbook that we give that's different from just our employee handbook of the expectations and, kind of professionalism and key standards and all of these things. That's, if you're a teacher at AAD, every teacher now knows they have the opportunity to grow within our organization. We don't want them to feel like they're stuck at an hourly employee if they don't want to be. And so, really bringing them along in that journey and giving them the opportunity to see those things as well. And if we have a new position that we want to fill within, we do an internal hire first before we look externally. And, I think the people who've grown into those director positions are the ones who have completely thrived and just been able to take on all of the back end communication and plannings of recitals, competitions, auditions, everything. And they've come up with new ideas. They're just resourceful. Like, that is huge with me. And if they're just sitting there wanting me to hold their hand and tell them every little thing, then it's not going to be a good fit. And we give them a year, because we say it's going to take a year to get through everything that we've done, in the studio, from starting in the session all the way through the recital, to really get it and to live through it. So we do give them that year, and then right away after recital do, a follow-up and kind of recap of the year. We have a 360 review process that we do with them, from the owner's perspective, directors, their program teachers, and then peers, just so they get a full gamut of kind of what their strengths are. And then we really focus on them. We set goals and, all the planning that you kind of preached to us about. We do that with them now too, 30-day goals. And we're actually heading into that process now of, this summer is huge for planning for our dance here and coming up with individual goals that they have for themselves professionally and personally, because we want them to have that balance. And then putting that into, okay, now what does that look like for your program? And then how does that fit into the studio? And then, as a director team, what are we going to do to grow beyond just the walls of what we have going on now?
So good. Shannon, what's like, you sound very involved with the team members, and there's a lot of mentoring and coaching. What does your meeting cadence look like? Are you talking with them a lot as a group, as individuals? How are you keeping everyone on the same page?
It's a good question. We do have a lot of meetings. Some people might say we have too many. But we start out our week, Mondays is I have a meeting with our studio business director, and that's kind of our planning for the week and anything that, the past week that maybe went wrong or that we need to fix. And then going into this week, what that looks like. And that kind of sets the pace, for the other meetings that will happen. And then on Tuesdays, I do a meeting with just the pre-company starlet director, because that was sort of my baby program and we click really well together, just she and I. And then Wednesdays we have a company meeting with our directors, and Emily and Stephanie, by the way, sit in almost every meeting with me, just because it helps with keeping communication straight and knowing what's going on. And they're amazing note takers. I am not. So just making sure that everybody's on the same page. And then we go into, so that's pretty much it. And then every other Tuesday we do meetings with the whole director team. So that's a bi-weekly meeting that we do with them. And then we do all of our planning. We have 2 retreats a year that we do with just our directors. And then usually in the summer we do a big training with the directors, and then leading into all of our teachers and staff. But that's kind of the lay of the land. And then I sit in every other week on our adult program meetings, just for the sake of budgeting and making sure we're all staying on task with some of the bigger picture things for that as well.
Yeah, I love it. What are you doing to, and a lot of this has come out already, but specifically, what are you doing around retaining your team members? Because I know they stay with you. I know they love you. What's the special sauce to keep these people around?
I think number one, I spend a lot of time building relationships with them. So when I'm back in Chicago, I try to take time individually with each of them. And even some of our teachers too, if I feel like there's a teacher that's struggling, whether it be, taking them to lunch or coffee or, going out for a drink right after they're kind of done in the evening. But I think it's good for them, to know that I care about their personal life too. And I do have boundaries, and I don't think it ever goes past that. But the teachers, know that I'm there for them. I do have like a very empathetic side, and I think it's important, whether it be families or during this time, we've had some teachers whose husbands lost their jobs, and they're not afraid to show, be transparent and show, how they're feeling and if they're hurting. And then the other side of that is we have a career path for them. I think, we do, like I said, we have very high expectations in our employee handbook from the time that someone comes in to do their onboarding process with us as a staff member, and what our expectations are as far as being trained in the classroom. And then we do provide, a package kind of like, this is what year 1 through 2 looks like, and then building all the way up past how many years. We've had some employees now with us for 13, 14 years as teachers, and making sure they know that we're going to take care of them. So if they want this as a career, they have the potential to be on salary, or they can do as a director a salary plus teaching. We have benefits packages to 401k, health insurance. And that it took us a long time to get there. We just included those 2 packages in the last, 3 or 4 years. But it's huge. And I think it just, shows them that they can do what they love and still have, a career path and be able to make money in this industry, which I know can be challenging. And I think also just the growth, like we are constantly talking about, okay, whether it be another location or another program or something that, asking them, what are kind of your hopes and dreams? What do you want to do within the dance community? And even if it's just as simple as, one of our company directors started a student choreography experience because she loves to choreograph and she's so good at it. And she's instilling that in all those company students now. And it's just so near and dear to her heart. So seeing them thrive in not only teaching and directing, and not every one of them loves all that admin that they have to do on the back end. I mean, especially right now with all the changes, but just making sure they have those other opportunities to thrive as well in what they actually want to do.
So good. And I want to highlight what Shannon said, is that this has all taken time. So as you listen to Shannon and go, wow, like I wish I want all of that. How do I get all of that? Know that it has been a process. And also, one of the things, Shannon, that I admire about you is you're very intentional. Like you're great at planning. You value the planning process and you share with your team members around planning. And so I'd love to for you to share a little bit about that planning process. I know you and Jessica came to our planning intensive in January. What does it look like when you are mapping out a year and the growth that you're going after?
A lot of it has to do with reevaluating the teachers and, the staff that we have, and just what their job tasks are, and really going through and being thoughtful about that, because I do think that the work-life balance is really challenging, in this industry, and we all are affected by that. But so first and foremost, we kind of talk about maybe some of the employees that don't seem as happy, and we really do kind of evaluation of just personality check and how they're working with other peers and teachers, and the personality strengths that are coming out. And we've done used a lot of tools that we've gotten from Inner Circle on that too. Done a lot of the quizzes and tests around that. And then once we figure out, okay, this is what we think they're thriving in their role and this is what's not, then we do those individual meetings with them, and letting them know that and kind of coming to an agreement. And then we get together as a group and do our retreat and kind of talk about what that looks like with the programming, and then, the studio as a whole, and how we can support one another and what will make everybody, kind of thrive for that year. So coming up with then, this is our vision, mission, core values for the studio. And and then putting that into each individual program for what that looks like for, vision, mission, core value for each program. We don't share that out externally, but that's just for them to feel good about their program. And then Jess and I obviously give our expectations too for growth, just for, their programs for numbers, financial numbers, student numbers, retention, things like that going into it too, and that actually just came into play this past year because they all wanted to know more about their programs and really wanted to be involved with the number side of things.
Awesome. We're out of time. I could talk to you for so much longer. Shannon, what would you say, just closing here, what would you say to studio owners that, are currently going through our new normal that we're in, but they're hearing your story and they're like, they're inspired, they want to take action, they want to build something like you and your team have built. Where should they start?
I think it's evaluating their current team. I mean, especially right now, we have 2 specific dance teachers that have really stepped up to the plate. And one of them was kind of the lead teacher in our Broadway Bound program. And she was an employee that started with us 3 years ago. And I almost let her go because it was so challenging in the beginning. And she was trying to grab all these hours at the desk and spreading herself way too thin. And in this situation, she's thriving virtually with her students, and she's getting so many compliments. And, so now I'm like, okay, this is what she thrives at. And she's really good at coming up with ideas. And I needed to just sit down and say, no matter what, this is what you're going to make every week going through this, kind of give her a stipend. Because it was a financial thing for her, and she just wanted to feel comfortable and feel safe. And, I think that a lot of our employees go through that, and honestly being able to really evaluate them as, their characteristics. And it's okay. I think as women, it was really hard for me to say, this is really not a strong point of yours. We're not going to do that anymore, and acknowledge that. And for me to accept it too, because a lot of times, I'm fearful of losing people, and I want to just keep pretending that everything's okay. But what I found was communicating and being honest about it. They were feeling, we were both having angst. And so just kind of really stepping up and being, overly communicative about those things, and making sure that they grow and, that we're here for each other, and the community that we build, and just the tight knit, that we're going to support them however we can. And that we're kind of all going through this together, so they feel, connected, and they don't feel like we're separate. She's the owner, I'm this, and so just yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Shannon. This has been incredible. Shannon, where can our studio owners go to learn more about your studio and what you're up to?
You can go to allaboutdance.org is our website, or our Instagram is AAD Chicago, and our Facebook page is All About Dance Chicago.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thanks again, Shannon. This was so insightful, and I really appreciate you sharing today.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Transform My Dance Studio podcast. Don't forget to join us over in the Dance Studio Owners Hub Facebook group for more resources and support in growing the dance studio of your dreams while reclaiming your life.